Just who is Storage's field captain Shouta Hebikura? Could he be this guy? Or this guy? Or maybe even this guy? No, but in all seriousness, he's almost certainly Jugless Juggler from Ultraman Orb. Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the internet, it's RJ and welcome back to Ultra Report. Today, we're going to be discussing a few of the rumors circulating as to whether or not Shouta Hebikura is Juggler from Ultraman Orb. For those of you who are new to the franchise and might not have seen Orb, Juggler is, for the most part of the series, the main antagonist, and then in the final episode he's redeemed, and ever since then he's been more of a protagonist. Despite this, the character has a very sinister aura about them, so it's definitely possible he might not be a straightforward protagonist in Z, but since none of the episodes featuring him are out yet, we can't really make any sort of definitive statement on the matter. Now let's discuss the evidence. First and foremost, they are portrayed by the same man. Now back in the Showa era, it wasn't too uncommon to see actors portraying several different characters across multiple shows. However, the man that played Dan Moriboshi refused to come back to Ultraman Leo unless he could play the same character, so there is a little bit of a precedent here. However, as the series has come to a more modern era, that sort of practice has really fallen out of favor. So now if a character becomes popular for one role, they tend to stay in that role. I understand there may be a little bit of an argument for typecasting here, but it seems like the actor enjoyed his time in the role, considering he's came back at least twice now. So, we'll just have to see how things go from here. Aside from the fact that they're played by the same dude, we have a few more minor things, let's say. In the first episode, Hebikura seems to be completely unfazed when Zet shows up. He also disappears towards the end of the episode, and then a mysterious figure in the storage uniform with his hair down has the Tiga, Dyna, and Gaia medals in their possession. This, presumably, the first time I watched the episode was Celebro, but the scene immediately afterwards shows Celebro possessing his human host, so that almost certainly was not him. Next up, in the second episode, where Haruki is trying to learn how to fight Naranga, he spars with Hebikura, and the scene has some very subtle purple lighting in a few scenes. There's also a scene where Hebikura's hair gets knocked out of place and he looks like Juggler, especially with his bangs down. Now we have some extra series content, not really anything directly shown in the series yet, but it's out there. First, and in my opinion most damningly, we have this little plush toy. You notice something a little bit funky about it? Oh yeah, he's got red eyes! Now I understand, aliens are pretty prominent in this franchise. But unless Hebikura's been going really heavy in the jazz cabbage, I'm gonna assume that he's probably not a human being. Now granted, I don't really remember Juggler himself having red eyes in Orb. In fact, his demon form had bright green eyes. But I feel like this is a pretty good indicator that he is not who he says he is. Next up, we have the inclusion of Zapondon. Now once again, for those of you who have not seen Orb, Zapondon is Juggler's little pet monster. He fuses into him in episode 16. However, the problem with that is that Juggler does not have the Dark Ring anymore. In Ultraman Orb's movie, he knowingly seals it away so evil people can't use it anymore. So unless he has a Zet Riser, it could be Celebro, or he could have a Zet Riser, and maybe it is Juggler. That is pretty flimsy evidence in my opinion, but it is something of an argument. Next up, we have the flimsiest piece of evidence in my opinion. The Gashapon releases for the Ultra Hero medals are coming out, and one of them happens to be Juggler. Now I'm gonna say this is a complete non-entity as far as evidence is concerned, because the medals, usually all of the toys in general, just happen to release everything. For instance, the gyro capsules for RB, we had Jonius, we had Mebius, we had Nexus, and none of those characters were even somewhat acknowledged in that show. However, with everything else aligning around the metal releases, I feel like this could be something, but I wouldn't get yourself too disappointed or excited over it, especially if it ends up just being a complete red herring. Next up, we have what I would consider to be the smoking gun, the confirmation that Juggler is almost certainly going to be in Z. The title for Episode 5 is quite literally called First Juggling. The episode synopsis is as follows. The freezing kaiju Pigila appears at the lab where an ancient piece of stoneware is being analyzed. Yoko launches in Windom, but... Now, nothing in the episode summary itself really gives anything away. That title is pretty hard to ignore. If I were to have to make my own guess as to what exactly happens in this episode, I'm gonna assume Juggler reveals himself somewhere around the end of the episode, gives Haruki the medals for his last form, and then is just a recurring character for the rest of the show like Riku is supposed to be. Now, where I personally am confused is whether or not Juggler is going to be a protagonist or an antagonist. We don't really know why he's in this universe. It could be to help Zet, which would make sense as to why he's training him in the storage dojo. He even flat out tells him how he should defeat Naranga. But Juggler is known to be somewhat of a tricky character. He's still kind of an asshole, especially in the Jeed movie. When he's trying to be a good guy, he still comes across a weirdo. So we'll really just have to wait and see where this goes. Now, we've taken a look at a lot of information that confirms, or at least leads into the idea that Hebikura is Juggler, but I think it's time to be fair. Let's look into the information that contradicts this, and what's saying that he isn't Juggler. Let's take a look right now. That will do it for this unnecessarily in-depth look into these very minor background details about a character in a children's show. I hope you all enjoyed it, because I enjoyed making it. The show has been very good so far, so even if this video sucks, at least Z will hopefully still be good.